Beneath every quiet forest floor, a vast and silent network is gently humming with life. You cannot see it, you cannot hear it, and yet it stretches for miles in every direction, weaving between roots and stones, threading itself through the soft, dark soil. It is older than the trees that grow above it, more ancient than the birds that nest in their branches. Tonight, we will descend slowly, layer by layer, into this hidden world. A world of fungi, of fine white threads, of patient and unhurried intelligence, the world of mycelium. Welcome to Let's Learn While You Sleep. Tonight, we journey downward, just a few inches beneath the moss and fallen leaves of an old forest, into a realm that scientists have only recently begun to understand. For most of human history, fungi were thought to be a kind of strange plant, quiet and unremarkable, growing in damp corners of the world. But over the last several decades, biologists have come to recognize that fungi belong to their own great kingdom of life, distinct from plants and animals alike. And the largest, most mysterious part of any fungus is not the mushroom we sometimes see above the ground, but the living network it leaves below, the mycelium. As you settle into stillness tonight, let your breath grow slow and even. Let your thoughts soften. We will move gently through the science of this underground world, and you may drift into sleep at any moment, knowing that the forest, in its quiet patience, will keep teaching you while you rest. To understand mycelium, we must first set aside the idea that fungi are plants. They are not. In fact, fungi are more closely related to animals than they are to anything that grows green and photosynthetic. Roughly 1.5 billion years ago, the ancestors of fungi and the ancestors of animals branched apart from a common lineage, leaving plants on an entirely separate evolutionary path. This is a curious thought to hold in the quiet of the night. The mushroom you might pass on a forest walk, soft and pale on a fallen log, shares a deeper ancestral kinship with you than it does with the tree it grows upon. Fungi do not make their own food from sunlight. Instead, they live by absorbing nutrients from the world around them, breaking down organic matter through a slow and intricate chemistry. They release enzymes into their surroundings, dissolving wood, leaves, and stone alike, then drink in the freed molecules through the walls of their thread-like bodies. These threads, individually, are called hyphae. They are extraordinarily fine, often only a single cell wide, far thinner than a human hair, and they grow outward from their tips with quiet persistence. When many hyphae weave together, branching and merging, exploring and intertwining, they form the larger living mat we call mycelium. A single teaspoon of healthy forest soil may contain several miles of these gentle filaments, folded into a space smaller than your palm. In some places, mycelium grows so densely that it forms a soft white veil just beneath the leaf litter, visible if you gently lift a patch of moss with your fingers. In other places, it spreads more sparsely, threading through the dark, searching, feeding, joining. It is everywhere in the forest. It is in the meadows and the wetlands. It is even in the deserts, waiting patiently for rain. And although it does not move as we do, it is far from still. It is, in its own quiet way, always reaching outward. Consider for a moment the scale of these underground networks. In the year 1998, researchers studying a forest in eastern Oregon described an organism that astonished the scientific world. It was a single fungus, a honey fungus of the species Armillaria ostoya, growing in the soil of the Malheur National Forest. By tracing its genetic signature through samples taken across the landscape, scientists estimated that this single individual covered roughly 3.5 square miles of forest floor. Its age was estimated at somewhere between 2,000 and 8,000 years old. By mass, it is considered one of the largest living organisms ever documented on Earth. And yet, walking through that forest, you would see almost nothing of it. Perhaps a cluster of honey-colored mushrooms in the autumn. Perhaps a pale fan of fungal tissue under the bark of a fallen tree. The rest is hidden, threaded silently through the soil, doing what it has done for millennia. This is one of the strange and beautiful truths of mycelium. It quietly defies our usual sense of what an organism is. It has no center, no brain, no single body in the way we imagine bodies. It is more like a slow, distributed presence, spreading wherever the conditions allow, dying back where they do not. Some scientists describe it as something closer to a process than a thing, a continuous, patient unfolding through the dark. Other large fungi have since been discovered across the world, in old forests of Michigan, in the soils of Switzerland, in remote corners of China. None of them roar, none of them move quickly, none of them announce themselves. They simply grow, year after year, century after century, weaving themselves more deeply into the structure of the land. And as you breathe in slowly tonight, you might consider how rarely we notice the largest living things on our planet. Not because they are far away, but because they are quietly beneath our feet. Now imagine, somewhere in that darkness, a young pine seedling pushing its first delicate roots into the soil. It is small, vulnerable, and not yet strong enough to gather all the water and minerals it needs to survive. But it is not alone. Within days, sometimes hours, the fine tips of fungal hyphae find the seedling's roots and begin to gently wrap around them. In some species, the fungus enters the root cells themselves, forming intricate branching structures inside the plant tissue. In others, it forms a delicate sheath that envelops the root like a soft glove. This partnership is called a mycorrhizal, from Greek words meaning fungus root. It is one of the oldest and most successful relationships in the history of life on Earth. Fossil evidence suggests that mycorrhizal partnerships may have existed for at least 400 million years, possibly longer. Some scientists believe these fungi were essential to the original colonization of land by plants, helping the first green pioneers anchor themselves in barren rocky soils long before the evolution of true roots. The arrangement is quietly elegant. The plant, through photosynthesis above ground, captures sunlight and turns it into sugar. It then sends a portion of that sugar downward into its roots, and from there into the fungal partner. In exchange, the fungus, with its vast network of fine threads, reaches into spaces too small for any root to enter, gathering water, phosphorus, nitrogen, and many trace minerals. It passes these nutrients gently back into the plant. Estimates vary, but in many forests, between roughly 20 and 80% of a tree's nutrients are believed to arrive through fungal partners rather than directly from its own roots. And in return, a significant portion of the sugar a tree creates may flow downward into the fungal network. It is a slow, quiet trade. There is no rush. The plant grows, the fungus spreads, and the soil itself, threaded through with this partnership, becomes more alive than it would otherwise ever be. And here is where the story grows even more remarkable, because mycelium does not connect to only one tree or even to one species of tree. A single fungal network can link the roots of many different plants together, sometimes dozens, sometimes hundreds, across a wide stretch of forest. Pines may share a network with firs, with birches, with shrubs and wildflowers nearby. Through this shared network, something extraordinary appears to happen. Researchers have shown, using carefully traced isotopes of carbon, that sugars and nutrients can move from one plant to another through the fungal threads. In the 1990s, the Canadian ecologist Suzanne Simard published influential studies suggesting that older trees, sometimes called mother trees, may pass carbon through fungal networks to younger seedlings growing in shaded conditions nearby. Later work has shown that signaling molecules and even certain chemical warnings about pests or stress can travel along these underground pathways. The popular press has called this the Wood Wide Web, a phrase coined in the journal Nature in 1997. It is a beautiful image, and the science behind it is real, though researchers continue to debate exactly how much sharing occurs and whether it is best understood as cooperation, competition, or simply the natural flow of resources through a shared system. Current evidence suggests that the truth is layered and varies from forest to forest. Some fungal partners are generous. Some appear to take more than they give. Some plants may benefit greatly from the network, while others may be quietly drained by it. What does seem clear is that no tree in an old forest stands truly alone. Beneath every trunk, the soil is laced with threads connecting it to its neighbors, allowing exchanges that we are only beginning to understand. As you drift deeper into rest tonight, you may carry this gentle image with you. A forest is not a collection of separate trees. It is a community, joined below, breathing together in a slow rhythm, older than memory. Scientists have come to call these underground partnerships the Wood Wide Web, a phrase first coined in the journal Nature in 1997 to describe what researchers had observed in Canadian forests. And the metaphor, though playful, captures something genuinely profound about how trees and fungi exchange resources beneath the soil. Through these living threads, carbon flows from one tree to another, sometimes across species boundaries, sometimes from a towering elder to a struggling sapling many meters away. Suzanne Simard, working in the forests of British Columbia, traced this movement using radioactive isotopes of carbon, and what she found suggested that birch trees and Douglas firs, though entirely different species, were sharing sugars through fungal connections, season after season, year after year. Consider for a moment what this means. A tree that has stood for a century, its canopy stretching towards sunlight far above the understory, may be quietly feeding a younger tree it has never touched, through a network it cannot see, using a chemistry it did not invent. The fungus, in turn, takes a portion for itself, a kind of biological commission for the service of transport. It is not generosity in the human sense, and yet it is not pure competition either. It is something older and stranger, a tangled economy of need and exchange that has been refining itself since long before there were forests as we know them today. Some researchers propose that mother trees, the largest and oldest individuals in a forest, act as hubs in these networks, channeling nutrients to their kin and to seedlings struggling in deep shade. The evidence for this remains an active area of study, with ongoing debate about how directional and intentional such transfers truly are. But what is not in doubt is that the connections exist, that the substances move, and that the forest above ground is intimately bound to the fungal world below, in ways we are only beginning to map. And somewhere, right now, in a forest you may never visit, this slow trade is happening, carbon and water and minerals flowing through threads no thicker than spider silk. The mycelium does more than move sugars between willing partners. It also carries messages, or something very much like messages, in the form of chemical signals that pass from one root to another through the fungal network. When a tree is attacked by aphids or chewed upon by caterpillars, it begins to produce defensive compounds, bitter tannins and volatile oils that make its leaves less appetizing. And remarkably, neighboring trees connected to the same fungal network often begin producing similar defenses, even though they have not yet been touched. Experiments conducted in the early 2010s, particularly those by Lucy Gilbert and her colleagues working with broadbean plants, suggested that fungal connections could indeed serve as conduits for warning signals, allowing one plant to alert another to incoming danger. Whether this is communication in the way we usually mean the word remains a matter of careful debate. The plants are not choosing to speak, and the fungi are not couriers in any conscious sense. And yet the effect is real, measurable, repeatable. Information of a kind travels. A threat detected in one corner of the forest may shape the chemistry of leaves many meters away, all because of the silent network knitting roots together beneath the soil. Consider how strange and beautiful this is. We grew up imagining forests as gatherings of solitary individuals, each tree a separate life, competing for light and water and space. But the picture science is slowly assembling is something quite different. The forest, in this newer view, is less a crowd and more a conversation, less a collection of individuals, and more a kind of distributed organism, with the fungi serving as both nervous system and circulatory system at once. And though the trees do not think, and the mushrooms do not feel, the forest as a whole behaves in ways that suggest a coherence we are still learning how to describe. Somewhere out there, in a quiet stand of birch or pine, this gentle chemistry is unfolding, faster than we can perceive, slower than we can measure, in a language made entirely of molecules. To truly appreciate the mycelium, we must travel backward in time, far beyond the age of forests, beyond even the age of trees themselves. Fungi are ancient, far older than the green plants they now embrace. The fossil record suggests that fungi were already established on land more than 450 million years ago. Perhaps long before that, exploring the bare mineral surfaces of a world that had not yet known a single leaf. When the earliest plants began their tentative migration out of the water and onto the continents, they did not arrive alone. Microscopic evidence preserved in stone, including the famous Rhynie chert deposits in Scotland, dating to roughly 410 million years ago, shows fungi already entwined with the tissues of these pioneer plants. The partnership, in other words, is not a recent invention. It is one of the oldest collaborations in the history of life on land. Some scientists have gone so far as to suggest that without these early fungal partners, plants might never have succeeded in colonizing the continents at all. The first plants lacked true roots, and the soils they encountered were thin, mineral-poor, and unfamiliar. Fungi, already adept at dissolving rock and extracting nutrients, may have served as the original root system for life on land. In a sense, every forest you have ever walked through, every meadow, every wheat field, every windbreak of poplars beside a country road, owes its existence to that primordial bargain struck nearly 500 million years ago between a green cell and a fungal thread. Consider how unfathomable that span of time really is. Continents have drifted across the face of the planet. Ice ages have come and gone, again and again. Vast forests have risen and fallen, leaving behind seams of coal that we now burn in furnaces. Whole categories of creatures have flourished and vanished. And through all of it, beneath all of it, the fungi have remained, quietly, patiently, holding the green world to the soil with threads finer than thought, in a partnership older than almost anything else still living on Earth. Among the many species of fungi that weave through the world's forests, two great families dominate this underground partnership with plants. The first are called arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, microscopic specialists that actually penetrate the cells of plant roots, forming delicate, tree-shaped structures inside them. Structures so intricate, they were given the name arbuscules, meaning little trees. These fungi associate with roughly 70% of all land plant species, including most grasses, most crops, and a great many flowering plants. They are, in a sense, the quiet majority of the fungal partners, invisible even to those who dig in the soil, yet utterly essential to the world we eat from. The second great family are the ectomycorrhizal fungi, and these you may know better than you think. They include the porcini and the chanterelle, the truffle and the fly agaric with its red cap and white spots from 1,000 fairy tales. Rather than entering the cells of their plant partners, they wrap themselves around the outside of root tips, forming a sheath of fungal tissue that exchanges nutrients across cell walls without ever crossing them. These fungi tend to partner with the great trees of the northern hemisphere, the pines and oaks and birches, the beeches and spruces, weaving the forests we most often imagine when we think of forests at all. And there is a third great strategy too, used by the heathers and the orchids, each with its own particular fungal companions, each with its own evolutionary story, stretching back millions of years. The diversity is staggering. Scientists estimate there may be somewhere between 2 and 4 million species of fungi on Earth, of which only a small fraction have ever been named or described. The rest wait, in soils we have not sampled, in forests we have not yet studied, doing the slow work of holding ecosystems together. Each one, in its own way, a thread in the great hidden tapestry beneath our feet, patient beyond patience, quiet beyond quiet, ancient beyond reckoning. First of these great fungal lineages is known as the ectomycorrhizal fungi, a tongue-twisting name for an ancient and elegant partnership. These fungi do not enter the root cells themselves. Instead, they form a soft, woven sheath around the outside of fine root tips, like a glove of silver thread, while sending delicate filaments between the cells to exchange nutrients and water. You may already know their fruiting bodies, even if you have never thought of them as the tip of something vast. The chanterelle rising golden through autumn leaves, the porcini swelling beneath a beech tree, the scarlet-capped fly agaric standing among the spruces. All of these are the visible blossoms of unseen webs that span entire forests. Beneath a single old pine, an ectomycorrhizal network may include dozens of fungal species, each specialized for slightly different soils, different seasons, different partner trees. The second great lineage, the arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, is older still, and stranger. These fungi do not form mushrooms at all. They reproduce through tiny spores buried in the soil, invisible to the unaided eye, and instead of wrapping roots from the outside, they slip directly into the cells, branching into delicate tree-shaped structures called arbuscules, from which they get their name. These arbuscules pulse with chemical exchange. Sugars flowing one way, phosphorus and other minerals flowing the other, for only a few days at a time before being dismantled and rebuilt elsewhere. Arbuscular fungi are believed to have evolved alongside the very first land plants, somewhere around 450 million years ago, when the green pioneers had no true roots of their own. In that distant world, fungi may have served as the original roots for plant life, anchoring it to the soil and feeding it from the mineral world below. Consider for a moment what this means. Long before flowers, before forests, before the dragonflies that hummed through carboniferous swamps, this partnership was already old. Every meadow you have ever walked across, every tree you have ever rested beneath, carries the inheritance of that ancient agreement still humming quietly in its roots. To understand how mycelium actually moves through the soil, it helps to slow down and imagine its growth on the scale of a single thread. Each hypha, that is the name for one filament, is only a few micrometers wide, far thinner than a human hair, and it grows from its very tip, like a tiny finger reaching forward into darkness. The tip is alive with intense biochemical activity. Vesicles full of building materials stream toward it, fusing with the membrane and depositing new wall so that the hypha extends outward at a rate that can reach several micrometers per minute. Multiplied across the billions of growing tips in a single cubic meter of forest soil, this slow advance becomes a vast, patient surge of life. When a hypha encounters something, a stone, a root, a pocket of richer soil, it does not simply continue blindly, it senses. Chemical gradients, moisture, the textures of surfaces, the faint molecular signatures of nearby organisms all guide its growth. If the conditions are favorable, it may branch, sending out new tips at angles, exploring outward. If conditions are poor, it may retreat, withdrawing nutrients back into the network and abandoning the unpromising territory. In this way, the mycelium behaves almost like a slow-motion search algorithm, a living problem solver, constantly mapping its surroundings and reallocating resources toward whatever it finds most worthwhile. Some researchers have even studied this behavior in the laboratory, placing food sources on a tray of soil in patterns resembling cities, and watching as the fungus, over days, traces out networks remarkably similar to efficient transit maps designed by engineers. The fungus, of course, knows nothing of engineering. It carries no plan, no central authority, no architect. And yet, through the quiet rules of growth and feedback, it arrives at something resembling intelligence, a distributed intelligence, soft and patient, written not in neurons, but in the steady reaching of countless living threads through the soil, each one indifferent to the whole, and yet, together, composing something that behaves with uncanny purpose. Listen closely, and you can almost feel it thinking. This quiet intelligence of the mycelium has fascinated scientists for decades, and the work of one researcher in particular has shaped much of what we now believe about forest networks. Her name is Suzanne Simard, a Canadian forest ecologist, and beginning in the 1990s, she conducted a series of experiments that gently overturned long-held assumptions about how trees compete for resources. In one classic study, published in the journal Nature in 1997, she demonstrated that paper birch and Douglas fir saplings, planted near one another, exchanged carbon through their shared mycorrhizal connections. Using radioactive isotopes as tracers, she could follow the path of carbon atoms from one tree down into its roots, through the fungal threads, and up into the roots and needles of its neighbor. The carbon flowed in measurable amounts, in both directions, with the net movement favoring whichever tree was shadier and more in need at the time. The implication was quietly revolutionary. Trees were not merely competitors, locked in a silent battle for sunlight and soil. They were, in some real sense, sharing. Later work by Simard and others suggested that older, larger trees, sometimes called mother trees, appeared to play special roles in these networks, connected to many younger trees around them, and able to direct resources towards seedlings of their own species. It is important to be honest here. Some of these findings remain debated. Other researchers have questioned how much carbon truly flows tree to tree under natural conditions, how meaningful those transfers are for survival, and whether the term mother tree carries more poetry than evidence. Science is, after all, a slow and self-correcting process, and the full story of these networks is still being written. And yet, the underlying picture has survived scrutiny. Forests are not collections of isolated individuals. They are communities, bound together by fungal threads, exchanging substances and signals in patterns we are only beginning to read. Somewhere in that darkness, beneath roots and stones, the conversation has been happening for hundreds of millions of years, long before anyone arrived to listen. Trees and fungi can exchange carbon. The next question naturally arises: can they exchange information as well? Here, we move into one of the most intriguing and still uncertain frontiers of forest science. Researchers have observed that when a plant is attacked by aphids or other pests, neighboring plants connected through the same mycorrhizal network sometimes begin producing defensive chemicals before they themselves are touched. A 2013 study by ecologist Lucy Gilbert and colleagues, working with broad beans, showed that uninfested plants linked by fungal threads to infested ones began ramping up their chemical defenses, while plants without such fungal connections did not. Something, it seemed, was being signaled through the fungal web, a faint chemical whisper of distress, traveling root to root. We do not yet know exactly what these signals are. They may be small molecules, electrical impulses, or shifts in fungal metabolism that the receiving plants detect through their own roots. The fungus may be passing along information passively, or it may be playing a more active role, perhaps gaining something itself by keeping its plant partners healthy. Scientists are careful, and rightly so, not to leap into the language of conversation or feeling. A mycelium does not have a mind in any sense we would recognize. It has no nerves, no thoughts, no memory of yesterday. And yet, somehow, across a network of microscopic threads spreading beneath a quiet forest, organisms appear to be exchanging signals that influence the behavior of others several meters away. Whether this counts as communication in the deepest sense is in part a question of definition. What is clear is that life beneath our feet is woven more tightly than we once imagined. The boundaries between individuals, tree and tree, plant and fungus, self and other, blur in the cool darkness of the soil. And as you rest now, listening, somewhere outside, perhaps not far from where you lie, a hidden web is doing exactly this work, carrying small molecular messages from root to root, sustaining a forest that has stood, dreaming together, for far longer than any of us can imagine. The answer, gathered slowly through years of careful experiments, appears to be yes, at least in some measurable form. Researchers studying Douglas fir forests in British Columbia, most notably the ecologist Suzanne Simard and her colleagues, have shown that when one tree is injured, attacked by insects, or beginning to die, neighboring trees connected through the same mycorrhizal network can show changes in their own chemistry. In some experiments, defense-related compounds rose in nearby plants only when they shared a fungal connection with the wounded tree. The signals themselves are not fully understood, and scientists continue to debate exactly how specific or directed these messages are, but the pattern keeps repeating across different forests and different species. Something is moving through the underground threads, something more than nutrients alone. It may be a slow chemical whisper, a drift of stress molecules carried along living tissue, sensed by roots that have learned, across deep evolutionary time, to listen. Consider for a moment how strange and beautiful this is. A tree, rooted in place for centuries, unable to move or call out, may still send a faint molecular warning to its neighbors before it falls silent. And that warning travels not through air, but through the dark soil, woven through the body of another organism entirely. The forest, in this view, is not a collection of solitary individuals competing for light. It is something closer to a slow conversation conducted in molecules, lasting longer than any human life. Of course, scientists are careful not to romanticize too quickly. The mycelium is not a brain, and the forest is not a single mind. The exchanges may be partly accidental, partly cooperative, partly the result of fungi pursuing their own quiet interests. And yet, even with all those careful qualifications, something profound remains. Beneath the forest floor, life is communicating with life, across species, across kingdoms, in ways we are only beginning to perceive. And it has been doing so undisturbed for hundreds of millions of years, long before anyone walked above to wonder what lay below. To appreciate how ancient this partnership truly is, we must travel backward through time, far beyond the age of flowering plants, beyond the dinosaurs, beyond even the first forests. The earliest fossil evidence of fungi resembling modern mycorrhizae dates back roughly 450 million years, to a time when the continents were largely barren and life on land was just beginning its tentative experiments. Plants in those distant epochs were small, soft, and rootless, little more than green films clinging to damp rock. They had no vascular systems, no deep anchors, no efficient way to draw water or minerals from the unfamiliar terrain. And yet they survived and slowly spread. Scientists believe they did so, at least in part, because fungi were already there to help. Microscopic fungal threads, descendants of even older aquatic ancestors, wrapped themselves around these fragile early plants and reached into the mineral world the plants could not yet touch. In exchange, the plants offered sugars made from sunlight, a currency the fungi could not produce on their own. From that first quiet bargain, struck in shallow coastal mud under a strange Paleozoic sky, an entire green world unfolded. Forests rose, soils deepened. Carbon was pulled, ton by ton, from the ancient atmosphere and locked into wood and earth. The very air we breathe today carries the long memory of that partnership. Without fungi, it is likely that plants would never have left the water, or would have advanced only haltingly, and the land would have remained a place of stone and wind. So when you walk through a forest, you are walking above one of the oldest collaborations on Earth, older than bones, older than flowers, older than almost everything we instinctively recognize as alive. The towering trees and the silent fungi beneath them are not separate stories. They are two halves of the same long sentence, written together across geologic time. And somewhere in that darkness, beneath your feet, that ancient sentence is still being written, one slow molecule at a time, exactly as it has been for nearly 500 million years. So we leave the forest for now, though the forest does not leave us. Somewhere in the darkness beneath the moss, the threads continue their slow weaving, passing sugar, water, and quiet signals from root to root. They have done this for hundreds of millions of years, long before our species learned to name them, and they will continue long after this night has passed into morning. There is a deep comfort in knowing that so much of life on Earth happens softly, patiently, without spectacle. The mycelium does not hurry, it does not strain, it simply grows, one fine thread at a time, into the spaces the world makes available. As you rest now, let your breath grow slower, let your shoulders soften, let the weight of the day settle gently into the earth beneath you. Imagine, if you wish, a single luminous thread drifting peacefully through warm, dark soil, in no hurry to arrive anywhere. You are safe, you are held. The forest is quietly breathing, and so are you. If tonight's journey brought you peace, you are warmly invited to return. Tomorrow, we will descend into another quiet wonder of the natural world, gentle and unhurried as always. Thank you for spending your night with Let's Learn While You Sleep. Subscribe and come back tomorrow night. We'll be here. Sleep well.